Hi, I'm Gordy Roth. I run a small machine shop specializing in British motorcycles mainly, vintage ones. And one of the problems I normally run into and have only recently discovered a really good fix for is that most of the cylinder heads on British bikes, the exhaust in one manner or another is retained by threads in the cylinder head. And the problem we have usually is just over the years from the metal settling or fatiguing or whatever you want to attribute it to, is that the threads always end up being stripped out eventually. They can be helicoiled. I don't really see that as a very permanent fix because of the different expansion rates, because you couldn't really helicoil it with a piece of aluminum. And what has happened on this one, this is a cylinder head off of the race bike that I built for Floyd Tapp. And what has happened just over the years is that the threads got looser and looser and looser, and then finally, I don't know if it came out once, the spigot came out once already, or if it just got this bad. And then what someone did was they JB welded this in here, the spigot. They threaded it in with JB weld, and then they used set screws to retain it that were welded into the spigot. So the problem being that it started wobbling this way until finally it broke one of the screws out. And I actually noticed at first it broke this screw out over here when I was at the races with this bike. It was luckily at night, so when I fired the bike up, because the rider told me it was ticking, I noticed it was idling a little fast. I fired it up and there was flame shooting out of this hole right here. The screw was gone. And so the fix that I think I have come up with is this gets bored out as much as possible without trying to hurt the structural integrity of the head. And then there's a threaded sleeve that I'm getting from my friend Jay Straight. He runs Britec New England. He makes really good stuff. You bore it out, and then you thread the new stub in here, which I actually have really, really good stubs from him that aren't the cheapo kind. These are actually CNC machined, and so the threads are absolutely perfect on them. And they're a little expensive. I don't remember how much they were exactly, but they're machined inside and out. And that's part of the problem, is that you can't get good stubs usually from just the repop manufacturers. They're usually cheap. These are made really, really well. The threads are really close tolerances. And that's the other thing. I've tried to tap 750 heads, T140 heads, TR7 heads, whatever. And the problem is that just the standard inch and 5/8 tap is it's the wrong clearance, and I didn't know that at the time. It's H4 clearance, or H5, I believe. The correct clearance for this is H2, which is 1/1000th of an inch clearance between the threads of the spigot and the threads in the cylinder head. If you have this done with someone who has a tap of the right clearance, my recommendation to you is use green Loctite. Here it is. I use 620. I know it says bearing retaining compound, but the thing is that it takes up for loose interference fits. So by doing that, you basically ensure that the threads are not going to back out. So if your threads are good in your head and it's also very tight, but you notice that they're starting to come loose, I would use clean the cylinder head out, get it as clean as you possibly can, and the spigot, and put green Loctite on it. And use the Tommy bar hole through it and a big screwdriver, and just get it as tight as you possibly can, and that will help But in this case, there are no threads left in here. I mean, you can see where they were. But that's about it. I mean, both exhaust pipes basically fell off when I took the hangers off of them, with the spigots still in them. So the spigots were not staying in the head at all. And so I will post more when I get the chance after I've began machining this, so you can see what's going on here and what I'm doing exactly. What the plan basically is bore this out and then either make, or if they get here in time, get sleeves that have threads on the inside of them, and then the outside of them I can turn it to the right diameter so that it's a slight press fit when I press them in here, and then thread the stub in there, and fitting that correctly is critical too, and we'll go through that later. But once you put it in there, you weld it around here with the spigot in it, threaded in it. So then what that does is basically when you weld aluminum, it shrinks, I mean like permanently basically. So when you weld it in there, it's going to pinch the threads. So once it does that, you will have a pretty permanent solution, and because you never want these things to come out, so that should fix it. Signing out for now.